I've got some exciting news. The WPT has given me a bunch of golden passports into their huge $5 million free roll that goes on December 13th at the Win. This is a live tournament and it is a free roll. Each seat's worth $2,500. All you have to do to qualify to get into the drawing where I'll be giving away some of these golden passports is go to ClubWPTGOLD.com, ClubWPTGOLD.com, and sign up using the code BART. More information about that in the description. Bradley, what's going on?
Not much, Bart. How are you?
How's it going? You got a hand for us here, Bradley, to start us off?
I do.
And where are you playing out of here?
I'm playing from a home game in New York.
A home game in New York. And where did you go to school in New York?
I do currently.
Oh, okay. Where do you go? Would you mind?
I'm at Vassar College.
Vassar. Okay, Vassar. And that is a small liberal arts college, right? Is it small?
Correct.
Yeah, small liberal arts college. Okay, and what's the size of the game you guys were playing?
It's a 1-2 game.
It is a 1-2 game, and how deep are you?
We're actually very deep. I think it's 2K effective.
2K effective in a home game, a 1-2 home game. Okay, let's start us off.
Yeah, so a little bit of background before. There is one very loose whale who everyone's trying to get into pots with, and it is why the game is so deep right now.
So there's a loose whale that everybody's trying to get into pots with. Okay.
So some less optimal play, which I'll highlight.
Okay.
So it's six-handed, so I'm under the gun, essentially in the low jack, though, with ace of hearts, king of clubs, and I raise it to 6.
So to 6. That's pretty small for a 1-2 home game. Just 3x the big blind at 2K effective?
Yeah, definitely should have gone bigger, but that's kind of like the standard. Some people were going 2.5x, which I thought was very small. But yeah, I probably could have gone bigger.
Okay, so you make it 6. Okay.
Yeah, and the hijack, who is the loose passive whale, flats.
All right, so the hijack whale flat. Okay.
And the cutoff, who is playing off a very short stack, min raises to 12.
Okay. Cut off 3 bets to 12.
Yes. And then the button, who is the only person that covers me at the table and is definitely the best player, he 4 bets it to 48.
And now it's back to you. The blinds fold?
No, the small blind cold calls.
Wow.
Which is he is very loose passive as well.
I mean, as deep as you are, this would be, it's crazy when you think about this. You usually play like 1,000 big blinds of deep, and then you actually only started it with a 3x raise. So the pot is not like that out of control. But I mean, you would always want to just like 5 bet here. There's so much dead money out there. You've got, I mean, even if it went, say, click up to 12 button, Quise is good. Like he's just hopping on the kind of BS sizing here. And, I've even seen some of this set up like something like this, like as high as like a 5-10 game, but like a 2-5 game. I mean, you open a 6, a call, a little min click, the 3 bet, and then a 4 bet. I mean, I'd be 5 betting the button anyways. Now you have the small blind cold calling. I would make it like probably like, I mean, you guys are so deep. You can make it maybe like 200 or something like that.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did. The big blind folded and I 5 bet to 200.
Oh, okay. 5 bets. Okay.
Everyone else folded and the button called.
All right, so everybody else is out. Only the button calls. Who you say is good or a decent player? It looks like you've got 400, 450, something like 460 or so in the pot, something like that.
Yeah, I had. I had right about there.
All right, and you have ace of hearts, king of clubs. All right, let's go to the flop here.
Yeah, the flop's an interesting one. It's king of hearts, jack of hearts, 3 of hearts.
King of hearts, jack of hearts, 3 of hearts. You have ace, king with the ace of hearts here. Now, I challenge anyone to know what is optimal on a monotone board in a 5-bet pot because they are so rare. So maybe we could treat this like as a 4-bet pot. Now, what I would look at here is that you really have about maybe like 3.5 pot size bets left. So however you want to look at that, 3.5 pot size bets left, whether it's a 3-bet pot, a 4-bet pot, a 5-bet pot, a single raise pot. And it's somewhat of a, I would say it's somewhat of a tight configuration because the button if he was kind of screwing around, he's probably not going to call. I think with a bunch of BS. Now you block pocket kings. If he were to say like flat with those, if he didn't have a 6-bet range, he could have jacks, but you have the ace of hearts here and the king of hearts is on board. So what's interesting about this particular texture of this monotone board is it like the only other flush that he could have here besides suited connectors, which I don't know if he's calling with that. I mean, I guess he really shouldn't be, would be like queen 10 of hearts. I mean, this is just like from a real, people can say, well, you have to account for him having other suited hands. I'm just saying if the guy was decent and he was structuring correctly, there's not a whole lot of hearts flushes that he can really ever have here in this configuration. Whether he has 5-6 or 7-6 of hearts once in a great while, but the fact that you have the ace of hearts and the king of hearts is on board and the jack of hearts is on board means that really the only suited Broadway out there is like queen 10 of hearts. I would just probably start with somewhat of a small bet here, to be honest with you. I mean, you're supposed to be betting most 4-bet pots anyways, but I just feel like you could just start here with like a $150 bet. You've got so much equity here. You block like top set. I suppose you could make a case for checking here too with ace king with the ace of hearts and then maybe letting the guy, I see people don't usually bluff in these spots. I mean, if it goes check, check, then you go 2 streets later on. So I would tend to bet small, but I suppose checking could be fine anyways. What did you decide to do here?
Yeah, I bet even smaller than you suggested. I bet 100. I didn't think he had any flushes. I don't think he would call a 5-bet with queen 10 of hearts.
So that means he's not going to call a suited connector.
Yeah, so I bet 100 and he calls.
So button calls. And again, I have absolutely no idea. I literally don't remember what happens in this hand. What I will say though too, as I always say over and over, is when you get into a situation where you bet very, very small on the flop, that means that your opponent in position is going to have a lot of continues. So if you start checking cards on the turn, there's going to be a lot of bluffs that he's going to need to start in a given situation. Now, monotone's a little bit different, I would say, because he probably, I honestly, I don't even know if he can call with like 10s, no heart here. And then he has to call with any pair. So if he had like ace jack, queen jack suited, even no heart, something like that. But, and then, maybe if he's got like 9s, 10s with a heart. But all right, we're at 660.
And the turn is the jack of diamonds.
All right, well, the jack of diamonds comes in here on the turn. I mean, I kind of tend to think that that's a good card for you. If you're saying that he's not defending a 5-bet with queen 10 of hearts, then he has a pretty tight range here in the spot that probably consists of what, like 9s plus, maybe like ace king, maybe some ace queen suited. And the reason why I think that the jack is a good card for you is because now he doesn't have pocket jacks. I mean, he's got one combo. You already block king king with your king in your hand. So, and then if he ever has like king jack suited, that's blocked now too by the board. There's only 2 combos of that. So, I mean, could he have peeled with the jack and hit it? Yeah, maybe like ace jack, queen jack, something like that. But in general, when you take a look at this, in the way that I sort of interpret the ranges, it's really not a bad card.
Yeah, I thought it was a very good card for me and ended up making a decision kind of regretted in the moment. But looking back on it, I kind of like it a little bit more. I decided to check.
I mean, I don't think that that's terrible. Again, it's just a situation where, your hand doesn't need any protection from hearts because you have the ace of hearts. And if you want to play this hand in a certain way where you bet really small on the flop and your opponent you feel like your opponent might start to need to run a bluff, you can check because you probably don't have any. He probably has more jacks than you do. If he's like 4-bet calling ace jack suited, queen jack suited, jack 10 suited, I don't know if you're necessarily 5-betting all those hands. So maybe it's reflected here with the check. I mean, I don't hate the play.
Yeah, I was thinking in the moment that because I went so small on the flop and he is definitely a very capable player, he could start a bluff. But then I also thought that I think queen would also check behind and I could have got an extra street from that maybe.
Right. You could have got extra street from queen. And then also too, like you can get more money in here from ace king that doesn't have a heart in it. Now, maybe he bets that off here now anyways, but...
Yeah, and the button bets 300.
So button bets 300. And now, this is the whole thing with this line. It's just that you probably are going to play this as a call check, and then it's pretty shitty. If the river's a brick and you check and then he bets, or excuse me, it's pretty shitty if the river's a brick, you check and he like checks behind with like king, queen, or he checks behind with ace, king, or something like that, because you decided to take this line. The other interesting thing here is if you do just call, which I assume that's what you're going to do. Is that right? Did you just call?
Yeah, I just check call. I didn't think I had another decision.
So hero calls. That's what I figured. Now, here's the thing. So we already talked about the fact that we don't think that really many, if any, boats are really all that represented here. I mean, or quads, right? You got one combo of jack, jack. You got one combo of king, king. We don't think there's a whole lot of king, jack. It's interesting if a heart comes at the end. If a heart comes at the end and you've got the ace of hearts, I seem to remember a call like this from last week or 2 weeks ago. It's pretty close whether or not I would check or I would lead. And it really comes down to how often someone's going to value bet less than the ace of hearts here. Because if a guy is going to check behind with the queen of hearts, it's a disaster. You have to like weigh how often is he going to check behind with hands that should value bet versus like how often is it better to check a fourth heart and then have him like run a bluff on you. It's pretty close. If a heart rolls off, I mean, I might tend to just sort of kind of block 400 or 500 instead of checking. You might get crank calls from trip jacks or something like that. You might get, you're going to get a heart to call. I don't think that's what happened, but this is how I would be thinking about this if a heart rolled off.
Yeah. And so going to a river.
Pot is 1260, excuse me. I was saying 960. Pot is 1260, yeah.
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 And the river is the queen of spades.
So, again, the board is king of hearts, jack of hearts, three of hearts, turns to jack of diamonds. River's the queen of spades, king, jack, three, jack, queen. Again, hero has ace, king with the ace of hearts in a 5-bet pot at 1-2. He 5-bet pre. He bet super small on the flop. Check called the turn on king, jack, three, jack. And now the river's a queen. And that's not the best card in the world. Actually, it might even be one of the worst cards for you in the fact that you now lose to queen, queen. If that bet's turn, you lose to king, queen. And you might lose to some ace 10 suiteds here that probably still peel the flop because of your small bet size, even without a heart. Like, I don't see how ace 10 suited can really fold on king, jack, three, all hearts, getting 5.6 to 1 in a given spot. But those are the hands that you lose to right now. So queen, queen, another queen, queen, and ace 10. That's what that sort of changes. And king, queen, of course. There's two combos of king, queen suited. So, yeah, I think you still play this as a check, and now you almost hope it goes check, check.
Yeah, I didn't even consider at the time that he would have ace 10 suited because I thought he would probably fold that pre. I kind of put him on 10s plus, ace, queen suited plus. So that'll make the decision a little bit interesting, which we'll find out later.
Okay.
But I do check, and the button bets 400.
The button bets 400?
Yes.
I think for this sizing, you have to call. And again, it just goes back to, even if it's a monotone board, and I know it's a 5-bet pot, you seem to think that the difference here in this spot, because you seem to think that the pre-flop stuff is so tight that even though you did bet super small on the flop, like all his hands have showdown value anyways on the turn, so he doesn't need to start finding bluffs. Is that kind of what you're thinking on the turn here?
Yeah, I didn't really think he had any straight bluffs on the turn. I thought the main bluff I would think of would be, I guess, 10s, probably with a 10 of hearts, because I thought queen, queen would probably check it back.
Does 10s with the 10 of hearts, does 10s bet the turn for 300 and a 660 on this board? And then on the river, bluffs, like what you check called. Yeah. It's, again, like if it wasn't so tight pre, usually when you bet so small, and I said you check turn, your opponent is left with hands that he has to bluff with, and anytime you're going to get 4-1, you're going to call. Here, because you think the range, like it's almost like a live node lock, is like 10-10 plus here in ace queen. The problem with that live node locked range is I don't know if any of the hands that you beat play it this way.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of tanked for a bit, and I started. I mean, we're friends, so I went through my thought process out loud. I was like, I'm getting 4-1. I lose to jacks. I lose to 3 combos of queens, 1 combo of kings, king queen of diamonds, and then I was looking through the bluffs, and the only one was, I guess, 10x with the 10 of hearts.
No one said this. I'm surprised. Could you ever check raise all in as a bluff? The only somebody didn't say that though. No, that was actually not said. I was expecting somebody to say that. The pot would have been like, I mean, they had only 1,200 or so, actually only 1,000 left. So, I mean, the guy would be getting like 3-1, yeah, almost 3-1 on his money, and it's just, I don't know if you're gonna find somebody that's gonna fold like pocket queens. You might get him to fold king queen, but I don't know. I mean, this one's really close. If you think that pre-flop range is so tight, I could actually see folding here, getting 4-1. If it's wider and you think that there's, something that comes into play because of your small bet size, usually I say you have to call when you check turns, when you've used such a small flop bet size. What ended up happening? What did you do?
Like I said, I tanked. I talked it through. I said, I'm getting 4-1. That's a good enough price if you have 10x with the 10 of hearts. I flick in the call. He turns over 10 of clubs, 10 of hearts.
10 of clubs, 10 of hearts, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's pretty strange. I mean, I'm strange in the sense that I don't even know. I mean, I guess I understand what he's trying to do, but it's not one that you'll see usually like every day. I don't know. Why did he bet so small at the end?
I honestly don't know. I asked him about it, and he said, yeah, I kind of gave you too good of a price. I should have just kind of went a lot bigger because, I mean, the main thing I'm putting him on at that point, probably queens. And I think that queens would have went a lot bigger.
Yeah. That's interesting that guy found that bluff, 10 of clubs, 10 of hearts again, like in kind of, if I was on the turn, if you bet 100 and I called and then you checked the turn, you still have a lot of like ace, and ace king that's going to check. And then now I bet only half pot and you call. I kind of figure like if I was going to bluff the river, I would have to really bet like a lot larger just over like the whole course of this hand. Like, I don't know how, you're going to sort of convince yourself down that you're going to call a lot. So whether the combination in his hand is correct, I don't think the sizing is correct at the end. I mean, what if he had bet like 800 or 1,000 here?
I'm probably going to end up folding at that point. He did mention how it's a super under bluff spot and he thought he could go smaller. Kind of so I would essentially only give him one of the combos of 10 of hearts instead of the other 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah. That's interesting. Thank you very much for the call, Bradley. I appreciate it.